Welcome, everyone. Today we have Chuck Harder, the Deputy Attorney General from the Attorney General's office in Little Rock. And he's going to be talking about the different scams that are going on right now during the COVID crisis and any other general information that we might need about scams. So I'm going to turn it over to Chuck. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope everybody can hear me. As Corey's indicated, I'm Chuck Harder. I'm the Deputy Attorney General for Public Protection. My department serves a role in the Attorney General's office representing consumers. We're responsible for enforcing the consumer protection laws here in the state of Arkansas, and we also represent utility ratepayers in rate proceedings. So when utilities in your area, Black Hills or SWEPCO, wants to raise rates, we get involved on behalf of consumers and challenge those rate requests. But I'm going to talk today about our consumer protection role. The role we play is to protect consumers in the legitimate business community from false and deceptive trade practices by businesses. The way we do this is we investigate alleged violations of the law, and we try to make businesses comply with the law, and if they fail to do that, we file lawsuits. We have anywhere from 7,000 to 9,000 complaints come in during the year, complaints from consumers about something that's gone on with the business. It could be a used car dealer, it could be an asphalt paving company, it can be any number of different transactions. The most complaints we get are about automobiles, dealings with used car dealers. So the complaint comes into our office and we try to work with the consumer and with the business to resolve the complaint. And 90% of the time, the consumer is satisfied that we've done everything that we can do. And last year, we were able to save consumers almost $2 million in total over the course of the year dealing with these businesses. If a business, if we have enough complaints about a business, or if we have other information that indicates the business is engaging in a practice that affects a lot of consumers, we'll open up an investigation to determine what the business is doing and does it violate the Deceptive Trade Practices Act. And if it does, we investigate and we file lawsuits. Right now we have about 80 investigations going, and we have about 40 lawsuits going on right now. And the lawsuits can be as big as suing the pharmaceutical companies over opioids, or it can be as small as asphalt paving company in Jefferson County that takes money and doesn't do the work. So all manner of cases. So how does this deal with the current COVID-19? I want to talk about what we're doing relative to the coronavirus public health emergency and how it's kind of changed what we do. First and most obvious, we're not in the office. This is not my normal office. This is my home. The Attorney General's office, in advance of the emergency being declared, made plans so that the entire office could work remotely. So that when the governor issued the order declaring a public emergency and he told state employees to work from home, we were already ready. And so my office has continued to do everything we normally do from home with laptops and cell phones and work from home. The second thing, a couple of other areas that I'm going to get into more later, when an emergency is declared, the price gouging laws go into effect, price gouging restrictions. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. We've been involved too in businesses who have failed to follow health department directives and governor's executive orders about staying closed and about taking proper precautions. We've been involved in some of those. We've been involved in scams. The scams include things like false cures. As most of you are aware, there's no vaccine, there's no silver bullet to deal with this virus, but some people like to trick people into thinking there is, and to buying products that not only don't cure the virus, but may also be harmful to them. And then others issues arise, and it's just the normal scams. They're individuals who say they provide testing and other services, which they don't. They're fakes. There are attempts to get people's stimulus checks. And there's other scams going on, taking advantage of the situation so that they can take people's money or steal their identities. And so all of that's going on right now. We've got a small group, so I'm going to talk a little bit and then stop periodically to ask for questions, if that's okay, Corey. So what happens, I'll talk about the price gouging laws, when it applies and when it doesn't apply. Some people are under the misconception that the price gouging law is always in effect, and it's not. We get a lot of complaints on a regular basis where people say the prices have gone up, there's price gouging going on. One of the most common is around gasoline. Gas prices go up around holidays. Gas prices go up at Memorial Day. Gas prices go up around Labor Day. Gas prices can go up for any number of reasons. If there's not a declared state of emergency, the price gouging law does not apply. Price gouging applies only if a state of emergency is declared. And that state of emergency can be declared by our governor. We're currently in a state of emergency around the COVID-19 public health crisis. And when the governor declared that state of emergency on March 11th, the price gouging laws and price gouging restrictions went into effect. And they stay in effect as long as that emergency exists. There can be other states of emergency that trigger the price gouging law as well. One of them actually, we've had a couple that have actually happened during the course of this emergency, and it's around natural disasters, which is when states of emergency are most commonly called. The tornadoes in Jonesboro. The governor declared a state of emergency, triggering price gouging laws in that area of the state. And then also there were some storms in southeast Arkansas that knocked out power to much of Jefferson County and South Arkansas. So there has to be a state of emergency for the price gouging laws to apply. The price gouging laws extend until the emergency is over. The current emergency on the COVID-19, on May the 5th, the governor issued an executive order that extended the state of emergency to June 19th. So unless the governor does something else, price gouging laws are going to be in effect until June 19th. So it's real important that the state of emergency be declared. I talked about the governor declaring a state of emergency. He's not the only one that can trigger price gouging. States of emergency can be declared by local officials. So if the mayor of Little Rock announces a state of emergency, price gouging laws would go into effect within the city of Little Rock for the period that the emergency exists. There are going to be some times when there's storm damage or other things that happen that are in such a small area, the governor doesn't declare a state of emergency. But it can be declared by county and city officials, and that triggers price gouging. A state of emergency can also be declared by the president or by the Department of Homeland Security. Any one of those declarations trigger the price gouging laws. So what's covered under the price gouging? Price gouging covers things that are needed to deal with the emergency. Things that are needed to deal with the emergency. When there's a natural disaster, that's going to include food, it's going to include water, it's going to include gasoline. Gasoline's needed for generators. It's going to include building supplies, lots of things in an emergency. For the state of emergency that we have declared around the COVID-19 crisis, it includes medical supplies and equipment. So the N95 masks, disinfecting products, the disinfecting gels, the hand gels, the disinfecting creams, food, water, toilet paper, anything that's a basic human needs item is covered under the emergency. So that's why toilet paper, food products, eggs, beef, anything that's a basic needs item is covered under the price gouging law. It also covers services. It's goods and services. So there are a lot of services that fall under the price gouging law. And the way we've seen this are efforts by landlords to increase rent. If you are paying to stay in a place and your landlord on April the 1st says, I'm going to raise your rent by 20%, that's going to violate the price gouging laws. You cannot do that during a state of emergency. We've also seen it relative to nursing homes, for nursing home services. So during the state of emergency, if a nursing home tries to increase the cost that it charges to residents for services, that's also covered by the price gouging law. So goods, services during the time of the state of emergency. So what the price gouging law does is it puts a cap on how much businesses can raise their prices above what those prices were before the emergency. So, and that cap is 10%. So if you were buying a product that the price was $5 on March the 1st, on March the 12th, it couldn't be any more than $5.50, 10%. So if we raised it to $6, violates price gouging. Raises it to $20, violates price gouging. We've gotten a lot of price gouging complaints at the Attorney General's office, and I'm going to talk about which things were and which things weren't price gouging, mostly about some things that were not price gouging. Early on, we got a lot of complaints about water. The water was just not available. Bottled water was just not available in the stores. We got a lot of price gouging complaints about water. A lot of those complaints ended up being not price gouging because people who bought a particular type of water, like Great Value. I buy Great Value brand water at Walmart, bottled water. If that's not available and you buy Dasani or you buy Evian water, you may not have been purchasing that in the past, and the price may seem excessive, but it's based on what was the price for that product. Some of the other things that we've seen too is just the size of the product. People are used to buying one size, and there's a bigger size that's available that's not normally sold in stores. One of the early price gouging complaints, and this went viral on social media, was a Walmart up in Northwest Arkansas that was selling a case of 24 bottles of water for $24. That sounds like price gouging. You usually can get a case of 24 bottles of water for $4, $5, $6. The reason it wasn't price gouging was that was not the type of water Walmart normally sells. They had run out of water. They had gone to a local bottling company to get the types of waters that are sold in convenience stores. And they were bigger than normal water. These were the big bottle waters that you see when you check out at a convenience store. And those are normally $1.50 at a convenience store. So selling one of those bottles of water for $1 was not price gouging, but it looked like price gouging. Businesses are allowed to, another area that's not price gouging is retail grocery stores that are just passing along increases that come from their distributors. The price gouging law allows retail companies to raise their prices if their costs are going up. So if there are eggs, or there is beef, or there is another product where the wholesale distributor or the supply company increases the price to the grocer is allowed to increase their prices to reflect that cost increase, plus a reasonable markup. What we as the Attorney General's office then do is look at the wholesale distributor to find out why they increase their prices. You know, if prices are going up, we want to find out what's the source of the price increase. So for things like eggs and beef, we are looking at the wholesale distributors, and if those costs have been increased because of the meat packing or the egg producers, we want to get to ultimately, where did the price increase start? And was it based on increased costs, or was it just a business taking advantage of short supply shortages? So that's kind of how the price gouging law works. The Attorney General's office is the one responsible for enforcing the price gouging law. If a company is found to be engaged in, and we want to encourage consumers to report price gouging. What we have done is we've set up on our website a place for price gouging complaints, coronavirus complaints. And what we want is we want to know where the product was bought, how much was it big, how much were you charged, a copy of the receipt if we can get it, a picture of the product, the size, the brand, everything that we can, so that we can investigate whether or not there was price gouging involved, and then we'll go look into that. We've had over 2,000 complaints about price gouging so far this year. Of those, half of those were at major retailers. Half of them were at major stores, and that's going to be the Krogers, the Walmarts, the Walgreens, the CVS pharmacies, major stores. About a fourth of them came from small businesses, the small businesses around the state, and then a number of them came from individuals. We're investigating those. We've currently looked at over 1,200 of those complaints, over half of those complaints, and continue to look at the rest of them to see if price gouging was involved. And that's price gouging at brick and mortar stores or locations that are physically located in the state of Arkansas. It's going to stop and see if we had any questions about price gouging at the retail stores here in Arkansas. I'm going to get into online stores and some of the other things later. I was just going to take a break and listen and quit talking for a little bit.
I do have a question. Where would you report this if you saw price gouging?
We have a website, www.arkansasag.gov.
Okay.
That is the place to report. When you go to that website, there is a link to our coronavirus resources and a place to report the complaint. You can do it online. You can mail in a complaint, or you can phone or email. There's different ways to do it.
Okay.
Online form, email, put it in writing and mail it to us, or phone call.
Okay.
A lot of the complaints we have, you know, the consumer world has changed, and a lot of people buy things online. There's been a lot of online buying because you can't find things in stores, and because people don't want to go into stores. You know, they don't want to go into the Walmart. I can buy product on Amazon, or I can buy product on eBay. It'll come to me, and I don't have to walk into the store and be concerned about my health and everything else. And so we've had an awful lot of online complaints. What we as the Attorney General's office have done for online complaints, even before the governor declared the state of emergency, we could see what was going on around the country. And so we contacted Amazon, we contacted eBay, we contacted Facebook, and we contacted Walmart. Those are four of the biggest online platforms for sales here in the state. And we discussed with them what their plans were to deal with price gouging, and to also find out how we could work with them to address price gouging that we found on their websites. What we found with the online stores is most of them had already put measures in place to stop price gouging. Amazon would not allow disinfectants to be sold on its website. You just could not find or buy some of those on their website. That was true also for N95 masks. There was a lot of things that they knew were subject to being price gouging, or that the quality of the product might be misrepresented. They would not let certain items be sold. Purell, hand cleanser, a number of those types of items. That was also true for eBay and some of the other online stores. And so the other thing those stores did was to create a quick way for us to communicate with them, to let them know where we saw price gouging. And we wanted ways to get information about the sellers, particularly Arkansas sellers, so that we could contact them, but also to stop them from selling. And so I'll use eBay as an example. So during this COVID-19 crisis, every day I get reports from eBay of items that are put up for sale that are toilet paper or cleaning products, Lysol or what have you. And every day, at least for the first 2 months of the crisis, I would find toilet paper priced at $15 or $20, for a carton of toilet paper, or I would find Lysol priced at $20 to $40. And so the process we worked out with eBay is I would direct message those sellers. I would notify and contact those sellers about those products to inform them they were violating Arkansas's price gouging laws, because Arkansas's price gouging law says you can't charge more than 10% above what prices were before the crisis. And if Lysol was selling at $5, the highest you could charge for Lysol was $5.50. You can't charge 20 or 40 bucks. So we contacted a lot of sellers. A lot of sellers were not aware of the price gouging law, and most sellers stopped selling things on eBay. And so we've sent them letters and dealt with that and messaged those. There were some sellers that just ignored the warnings, and they have continued to sell these products on eBay. And eBay is working with us to give us information about the sellers. You get a seller ID that doesn't tell you who the seller is or what the seller's address is. It will tell you the seller's ID and that they're in Batesville, or they're in Jonesboro, or they're in Paragould, but that's all you get. We can get from eBay the identity of the seller so we can contact them directly, and we're in the process of contacting these sellers directly, because they continue to violate the law. They continue to charge high prices for products like Lysol, or they've dropped their prices but increased their shipping charges as a way to kind of get around the price gouging law, and that won't work either. And so we're contacting those. We're going to be contacting those sellers. And then for some, like Facebook, we've been able just to shut down a seller's ability to sell in the Facebook marketplace. If you can't get them to, Facebook won't give us buyer identification information, but it will shut down, or seller identification information, but it will shut down that seller's ability to sell. And so we've dealt with that in that way. So that's a lot of the price gouging we have going on. Any questions on the price gouging? So let me go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Back in January, they told me my rent was going to go up to $585, and it would be going up in July. And I just wonder if I have to pay $585 now because of the virus and everything.
So again, the price gouging law only applies within the state of emergency. So if the rent, if they try and raise your rent while there's a state of emergency, they can't do that. They can't raise it more than 10%. Right now, the 1st of July is after the state of emergency. So if nothing changes, they can raise your rent. If the governor extends the state of emergency to the 1st of August, then that could be price gouging. They may have to wait to raise your rent. And if they continue to want to raise your rent, and if it's during a state of emergency, you need to contact our office so that we can talk to them.
Well, I mean, so I would have to wait until August where I knew anything, or,
No, ma'am, just, no, if you don't have to wait until August. What I'm saying is, Governor Hutchinson, the state of emergency on the coronavirus is supposed to end on June the 19th. So after June the 19th, there's no state of emergency, so the price gouging laws wouldn't apply. So your landlord could raise your rent effective July the 1st. That being said, if Governor Hutchinson issues another state of emergency, the price gouging laws might apply to your rent. And so if he declares another state of emergency and your landlord still wants to raise your rent, you need to contact our office.
oh, okay. Is there anywhere where I could get that, I'm trying to say
How to contact us?
yeah, where you go online and everything.
Yeah, when you go online and Corey, will you have this information available or can get this information to folks?
Yeah, I can. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let me see here. Hold on.
Would the state of emergency apply to the the governor has issued about looting and everything?
Yes, ma'am. When he declared a state of emergency about looting, yes, the state of emergency is in effect on that. Corey, can I show my screen for a second so I can show her?
Yes. Let me move some stuff around.
You could send it later through my Gmail and everything.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, Chuck, was it letting you share the screen now?
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the website. It's
Hi.
you go to the Attorney General website, which is arkansasag.gov,
Okay.
and then we have a COVID-19 resources,
Hi.
and you can click on that.
Okay.
And then under COVID-19 resources, there's information. But
Okay.
there is a report price gouging right here. See report price gouging right there?
Yeah.
And that'll take you to a form that you fill out. Or you can call our office. Let me see. Our contact information is down below. We have a 1-800 number,
Okay.
a 501 number. We also have an email. So if you'll just go to our website, you can find a phone number, an email address, and you can also find a form that can be filled out online.
Okay.
Apply to the things that are needed to deal with the emergency. And so that's why if there's like a tornado or a flood or this public health emergency, that's why food and water and basic human needs apply, and also rent for the emergency related to the looting and the public disturbances. Some of those same things may apply, but it also may include things like boards and building supplies to secure your house. It might include ammunition, different things like that. It kind of depends on the emergency. Let's see. I'm gonna take you somewhere where you can get more information. So the governor issues executive orders. That's how these things show up. So if you go to the governor's website,
Okay,
if you wanted information on the state of emergency, you go to governor.arkansas.gov and look on Governor Hutchinson's website, and there's a list of executive orders. So when he declares a state of emergency, it's by way of executive order.
okay,
And so you can see a list of the executive orders. Here is the executive order relating to the riots, and it's Executive Order 20-29, and he declares a state of emergency. If he doesn't say when it ends 30 days after he says it. So on or about the 1st of July is when this state of emergency will end, unless Governor Hutchinson says it ends it before then.
okay. Thank you very
You
much.
bet. So in addition to the price gouging we've dealt with, we've also had to deal with instances of businesses who have failed to close. When the governor declared this state of emergency, the health department has the authority to enforce the governor's orders, the executive orders. So if you read his original executive order, and when they've ordered short-term lodging, they put restrictions on short-term lodging, or they order gyms and spas to close, or they order this to close, or they order that to close. The health department is the agency that has the primary responsibility for enforcing that. And so in most instances, people contacted the health department. You know, if they noticed a business, you know, if there's a restaurant, there was a restaurant in Helena, Arkansas that was operating a week after they were supposed to be closed. So the health department is who you call, because the health department has the authority to order them to shut down. So it's the health department. That doesn't mean we don't get a call as well, because people file lots of complaints with us. When we got responses or got complaints about businesses being open, we notified the health department. If the business was licensed by another state agency, you know, if the business was licensed by the cosmetology board, or the business was licensed as a tattoo parlor, or the business was licensed in some other way, we also contacted the licensing agency, because they can also, in a lot of instances, order the businesses to shut down. Where we've gotten involved is, in some instances, staying open. We've learned things about the business where they've been violating where they've been operating in violation of the law, not related at all to the public health crisis. That we've had complaints about health spas where certain medical procedures were being done, like Botox and some other medical procedures. Under the Arkansas Telemedicine Act, those facilities have to be associated with a physician. They have to be run under the supervision of a physician. So while we're looking at why the business is still open, we're also coming across information that they are operating in violation of the law, because they're supposed to have be associated with a physician or otherwise. We refer those back to the board that regulates that activity, but operating a business without a license is a violation of the consumer protection law. So we can contact the business and tell them they need to change their business practices. They need to be operating under doctor supervision, and if they fail to do so, we can take action against them. So that was another interesting way that our office got involved in the business closing part of all of this. And again, all of that information comes from the health department. I'm going to, let's see, let me share I'm going to go back and make you guys look at my screen again. So the executive orders is what tells the health department that it's in control and issues directives. The health department, if you want to get detailed information on what that means, you go to the health department website to get information on the COVID-19, and it will give you information on directives. So when the governor orders certain things to be closed, information shows up on the health department website, and they have directives which give specific information about what that means. So for example, if you're looking at summer day camps, the health department has a directive that tells how that's supposed to work, how day camps are supposed to reopen. So this is an important place to go if you're wanting to get information about businesses reopening and what rules apply. For example, swimming pools. That's been a big one lately, has been swimming pools. And that directive went out directive for recreational pool reopening. Here the health department shows everything that has to be done for pools to come open. You can only operate at 50% of capacity. You have to reduce the number of entrances. You have to maintain a log so they can do contact tracing. So again, the health department website has all that information. Any information on businesses opening or that part of it, the opening and reopening of things? Okay, I'm going to get into the scams. So there's a good number of scams related to COVID-19, and some of them that we've seen early on. People didn't understand what this was. We've never seen it before. There was not a lot of information about this virus. And so a lot of misinformation started to go out early on. And there were a lot of people who were afraid, a lot of people who wanted to take things to keep from getting the virus, a lot of people who wanted to have things available should they get the virus that would stop the virus. And so there were a lot of fake cures out. The best source of information on whether anything works or anything should be taken for this virus, first and foremost, is your healthcare provider, your doctor or the hospital. Second is the Department of Health and the CDC. There have been a lot of these holistic healers that sell silver-based products as a curative product. There are a lot of them that have promoted products that will stop the coronavirus or heal people from the coronavirus. One of the most notorious and one who's being investigated by a number of states right now is in Springfield, Missouri, and it's Jim Bakker of PTL fame. Jim Bakker operates a ministry in Springfield, and he was advertising cures for COVID. There was also a business in Tulsa, Oklahoma that was advertising on television stations in Northwest Arkansas. We found out about it. They were making false statements about COVID cures, and we contacted the station and we contacted the business, and they stopped running the ads because they knew they would violate our laws by falsely advertising cures for COVID. So there's false cures. The other area where we've seen problems are fake COVID services, where they offered, particularly when there was a problem in finding testing facilities early on, there were a lot of places that said they offered COVID testing and other COVID services, which were scams. Again, in Northwest Arkansas, we had reports of, come to us from law enforcement, of people going door to door telling people they were there from the Arkansas Department of Health and the CDC, and they were there to give a COVID test, and they asked the individual for information. And what they were trying to do was get personal information that could then be used to steal the person's identity. You should never give out to anybody you don't know your name, address, especially your social security number, your driver's license number, those type of things. That's what those people were trying to get in an effort to steal people's identities. And so there was a lot of that going around at first as well. There were some things that appeared to be scams that weren't, but the problem was they weren't well communicated or publicized before they happened, and that's the stimulus. There was some information that came out. People thought they were going to get a check. They thought they were going to get a check that had President Trump's name, signed on it, and we saw all that in the press. What happened though, were people started getting direct deposits. There are a lot of people that got direct deposits that weren't expecting those direct deposits. And if your 2018 income tax return, if you filed it electronically and you had a refund that was owed to you and indicated a bank account where that refund was to go, that's where the government tried to send your money. Also, if you didn't file a tax return, but you received some sort of federal benefit like Social Security, there are a lot of instances where funds were direct deposited into the accounts that are tied to Social Security. And people weren't expecting that. And they got suspicious when they found out that there's something going on in their bank account that they didn't know about. The other problem was that for others, instead of getting a check in the mail, you got a debit card. A lot of people just thought it was junk mail and threw it away. You get these credit card offers in the mail, and you've got what appears to be a credit card attached to a piece of paper, and a lot of people threw them away, but the federal government changed its mind and didn't communicate that very well, that instead of receiving a check, you were going to receive a debit card. And so I'm going to hold up mine. So you get this piece of paper that comes from the Money Network Cardholder Services, and you get a debit card. It's a Visa debit card, just like that. And that's how you got your stimulus money. We had a lot of people who got that and they thought it was a scam, and they contacted our office. And so we issued an alert to notify people about the fact that that's how they would likely get their stimulus check. And a lot of people just simply threw them away. And after they got the information from us or elsewhere, wanted to know how to get their money back. And you can go online to get your stimulus check or your stimulus debit card. There's a $7 charge, roughly a $7 charge to do it, but there is a way to get that back on the stimulus money. Any questions about the scams and the fake websites and such?
Have you guys gotten many reports of people acting like they're census takers?
That is a good question. That not yet, but we suspect there will be. So criminals are always looking for new ways to scam people, and they look for opportunity. One of the opportunities to scam people is how they're doing the census. The census is being done online, and criminals will do that. You'll get emails, you'll get phone calls. There's lots of things, and the census asks for information, and so a lot of people are a little bit too trusting, and they get a phone call or they get an email that says it's associated with the census, and it's a scammer trying to steal information. And again, what they want to do is, if they can't get direct access to your bank account, one of the things they want to do is get information about your bank account. What's your bank account number, what's your PIN number, what's the information to get into your bank account and steal your money. If they can't do that, they want information that would allow them to open up a credit card in your name with your Social Security number. And so there will be, if we haven't seen a lot, but we anticipate there will be scams related to the census. That's a really good question.
I'm getting ready to be a census taker for the Census Bureau, and they will train me and everything.
That will be an interesting job. Are they going to give you some sort of identification so that if you contact somebody, you can prove that you're with the census?
Well, I have a badge and they've already fingerprinted me and everything.
See, and that's what people need to ask for when people go door to door. It's let me see your badge. Let me see your certification. You will be trained to deal with questions like that. You know, part of your training is going to be to make individuals comfortable that you're truly with the census and not somebody trying to scam them. You know, I'm looking at you. I trust you. You've got a face I would trust. But there are a lot of criminals out there that also have face you could trust. So yeah. I bet that's going to be a very interesting experience for you. Other questions about the COVID crisis or consumer protection generally? I think I've got about 12 more minutes, and I can talk about anything, whatever y'all want to talk about.
I have a question. So let's say that, I don't know, I'm wanting to find a contractor to add onto my house or something. Is there a way for me to see if you guys have had complaints filed against them when I am looking for somebody?
We don't operate anything like an Angie's List or Better Business Bureau. We do have complaints filed. We do keep records of complaints filed about a business. The way an individual can find out if we have complaints about a business, they need to ask a Freedom of Information Act request to get copies of those complaints. Our job is not to serve as a clearinghouse for who is and who is not a bad business. You know, we get lots of complaints about legitimate businesses that we investigate and find out the business has done nothing wrong. The best way, if you're going to have some work done, first and foremost is contact people you know. You know, Facebook has a thing now where you can post, I need some recommendations on this type of service. So, you know, who do your friends recommend? A second place is most construction, the contractor licensing board. You can contact the contractor licensing board. Make sure that they're licensed. You need to, before you have anybody do any work, are they licensed? Most any kind of repair work that needs to be done they have to be registered and licensed through the contractor's licensing board. Are they in good standing? You know, are their bonds current? Do they carry insurance? Those types of questions. Better Business Bureau. We work a lot with the Better Business Bureau. When we investigate complaints by consumers, that's absolutely one of the things we do. Is first we check to see if we have other complaints about a business, then we look at the Better Business Bureau. And you can get a lot of information there. There are also places to go that are less reliable but do have information like Yelp and Google and other places where you can get consumer reviews. The thing you have to be wary of is in some instances, some reviews may not be genuine. They may be, you know, that there's some places like Yelp have a pretty good process for vetting who's posting a review, but it's not as good in a lot of instances as, say, the Better Business Bureau. And other organizations. For retirees, AARP has resources. I work a lot with AARP. They have great resources for older consumers. Other questions about consumer protection or current issues? Ms. Jenkins, you got anything else? How are things there? You look to be out of the weather. Is it not raining on you then?
Yeah, the rain stopped for a moment.
Ah, that's good.
Yeah, it looks nice outside actually.
Yeah, we work a lot with the different consumer groups. We work a lot with most of the state boards and commissions. So the Towing and Recovery Board. When the tornadoes in Jonesboro, some of the truck drivers started charging really high prices to tow off damaged vehicles. And we got a lot of complaints from consumers, and we worked really close with the Towing and Recovery Board. We work a lot with them. We work a lot with the Motor Vehicle Commission and the Arkansas State Police on cars. We deal a lot with some organizations. We work an awful lot with AARP, and seniors are susceptible to a lot of fraud. And so AARP has good outreach. We work with them quite frequently, and they've been a good partner with us. We also work very much with the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of other organizations, and have good working relationships with all of them. Yeah. The census is a big one. An area where we have a lot of emphasis is robocalls and spoofing too right now.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm encouraging people to do, landlines, there's no good solution for landlines yet, but for cell phones is find out what services your phone provider provides. I have AT&T, and AT&T has a service called Call Protect, and you can with your AT&T phone, there's an app that you download. You can set it where it will filter out calls that are known to be scam calls, calls that are known to be marketing calls. You can even limit it to only allow calls to go through of people who are in your phone as your contacts. And so for me, that's my setting. So Corey, if you're not in my contacts and you tried to call me, it's going to send you straight to voicemail.
Right.
And I can return the phone call. So those things are big improvements that have been made and that we've been working with the telephone companies on. So that's a hot topic right now. Another area in the COVID-19, jumping back on that, is canceled travel plans. There were a lot of people who had airline tickets, they had vacations planned, they had school trips planned that had to be canceled. And a lot of businesses have worked well. The airlines have been good to do what they normally do, which is to hold the funds and let you use them at a later date and not charge you the change fees they normally do.
Mm-hmm.
Some hotels have canceled and not charged, but we do have some travel agencies and travel companies that have not refunded monies back for school trips and otherwise, and we're investigating those as well. Those are violations of the consumer protection laws. It's not price gouging, but it's a violation of the consumer protection laws not to give folks their money back.
Yeah, recently actually I've received text messages that are trying to get me to go to links saying that like I have an Amazon reward or they have my Costco receipt, which we don't even have a Costco in Arkansas.
So that's called schmishing. You know, phishing, P-H-I-S-I-N-G, is when you get something sent to you as a link in an email. Schmishing is SMSing, which are text messages. They're trying to do the same thing by text message that they try to do by email, and avoid that. And there's a lot of the phishing is still going on. My wife and I both got this last week emails that appeared to come from people that we know, but if you looked at the actual email address itself rather than the person's name, the email address was not an email address that a person would have. It was a bunch of gobbledygook numbers and stuff, and so those were phishing emails, trying to get information and trying to get me to click on a link I shouldn't have clicked on.
Yeah, my mother gets those a lot actually for her Netflix account. They'll say that her billing information isn't whatever, and
and the thing is they get more sophisticated. You know, this is their job. You know, these people that take this scam.
They look.
I mean, I can cut and paste and do things to make it look like it's absolutely coming from Apple or Microsoft or Netflix. Most of the time, though, if you've got a problem with your account, what I tell people is if you get an email and it says you've got a problem with your account, okay, you got an email, that's great. Go to the website. Go to the website that you trust and log in there. If you've got a problem with your account, it's going to be in their message center or message box on your account, and or pick up the phone and call or otherwise contact. What they like to do is they like to create a sense of urgency. You've got something, you've got to do something now. They're trying to get you to not take your time to figure things out and whether it's legitimate. I always tell people to slow it down. You know, part of what they do is try to make you think you've got to do something, you got to do something right away, and they're the only people that can help you. There is nothing that can't be slowed down, and take your time to research it before you do something. Don't do what they want you to do. I also tell people if you are contacted by somebody you don't know about a problem you didn't know you had, they're the only ones that can help you with it, and they want money. That's a scam.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Corey,
true.
anything else?
Do what?
Anything else?
I don't have any questions, Linda. Do you have any questions, or Leah?
Well, the only thing is that being a senior, I get people coming on the line saying, I'm on a recorded line and you're on a job list. I usually hang up.
hang up is good. So I usually hang up, except one time I thought I would have a little bit of fun with one. So I'm a little gray on top, and I've been a card carrying member of AARP for a while, and I had somebody call me, and they had a voice that was clearly not a voice of somebody in this country, and they were selling life insurance to seniors, and so I told him, I said, I can't hear you. I'm old and hard of hearing. Can you speak up? And he repeated it a little bit louder. And I said, I still can't hear you. I tell you, I'm really hard of hearing. So I did this 2 or 3 more times till he was literally screaming into the phone. And so I figured, well, he's disrupted his call center. And I just told him, oh, I'm not interested. And then I hung up on him.
That's funny.
Well, I told him one time that why are you scamming people during the virus? That's not right. And
You know, an interesting thing. So we work a lot with the Federal Trade Commission and with the Federal Communications Commission. And one of the interesting things, and it's kind of hard to believe, is that with the coronavirus epidemic, it has had an impact on the call centers in India. You know, because the virus has hit there, they've ordered businesses to shut down. And so robocalls coming from Asia are down considerably over what they had been before the virus, because they can't operate their call centers.
Huh. Interesting.
Well, Corey, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much. Ms. Jenkins, it was a pleasure to meet you and visit with you.
Okay.
And good luck with taking the census. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for the great information, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Glad to.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll be recording this, and I can send you a recording of it if you want, and whatever.
Sure. Corey, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.